Welcome back to OTR 2024, the year in review. Let's talk about Governor Healey. She spent much of her second year in office dealing with an issue that dominated her first year, the emergency shelter crisis. Thousands of migrants coming to Massachusetts, billions being spent as a result. Rules on length of stay have been tightened, but the state's right to shelter law remains on the books. Marianne, how much longer can this go on?
Just a reminder to everybody watching at home that we could have solved this issue had Donald Trump allowed Republican senators to vote for the bipartisan immigration bill, which he now will do once he gets into office to take credit for it. Maura Healey was confronted, like every governor across this country, blue or red, with immigrants coming in. It was an avoidable problem because of that very bill.
Listen, I agree that the bill should have passed, but the horse was out of the barn by then at the same time from the beginning of the Biden administration. I think Maura Healey's counting on Donald Trump to fix the immigration problem for her and hoping that he does.
But the Trump administration is already giving Massachusetts a side eye about how much of a target will the Commonwealth be? What do you think?
Well, people love to play this up that we're going to be a target. I don't think so. Were we a target from 2016 to 2020? Not really. I mean, the sanctuary city status in Boston and other places in Massachusetts definitely puts us on Trump's radar. But if you look back at the first 4 years, it's not like Massachusetts got targeted that much than other places.
Well, the fact that Maura Healey didn't join the group of governors, Democratic governors, to oppose Trump, I thought was a smart move because it gives her the independence and ability to determine and do what is best for Massachusetts and not feel like she has to do what everyone else is doing.
She only sued him like 30 times. Well,
and
she was Attorney General.
And won 100 of them,
and
won all of them.
I'm sure he's forgotten.
He had so many cases, how would he remember?
Well, 2025 will be a big year for Boston Mayor Michelle Wu. She'll welcome a baby daughter next month and launch her re-election campaign as well. 2024 brought some hard lessons about dealing with Beacon Hill. Her bid to change Boston's real estate tax structure went down in flames after months of negotiation. A lot was in play here. Did she underestimate the heavy lift she was asking for? What do you think, Marianne?
Well, I think there are two things here. One is the proxy campaign run by surrogates to try to weaken Michelle Wu before Josh Kraft gets into the race. So that was going on, number one. Number two, she will always be seen as the person who was trying to help Boston residents pay less in property taxes. And the people who opposed her, Ed Flynn, Nick Collins, and others, are on the side of having raised it. Josh Kraft, we don't know where he stood on this, but if he gets in the race, he's going to have to try to convince people he was either for the reduction in property taxes for Boston residents or against it. And if you're running to be mayor of Boston, you better be on the right side of that issue.
What do you think, Rob?
I think she miscalculated a bit. She walked into, the snake pit of tax increases in the city of Boston without boots on. And, at this point, it is a question. Where do the voters come down? Are they going to blame her for their property tax increases or blame the people who scotched this deal, which would have put taxes up on business? It's unclear.
Well, Marianne touched on this. Ed Flynn, Josh Kraft, they've been talked about as potential candidates for mayor, potential challenges. How likely do you think that is? What do you think?
Well, I think it depends. Do they have $6 to $8 million, which is what it would take to beat her? And are they willing to get in the ring and get punched? I mean, it's a lot harder to do this from outside the ring, from the sidelines, than it is as a candidate for office. So I'm not sure what's going to happen.
What do you think, Marianne?
Well, I mean, it's either Ed Flynn's getting in or Josh Kraft is getting in. I can't imagine both of them getting in. If Ed Flynn gets in, the Ed Flynn you see now, the more conservative one, is not the one who ran for city council. He ran as a progressive, and now he has to explain why he changed his positions. As for Josh Kraft, to Rob's point, yeah, he's probably got $6 or $8 million, but what kind of candidate is he going to be? He's never been in politics. He's never been in Boston politics. Can he take, to Rob's point, a punch? Can he stand up to everything? Certainly, everyone's trying to pave the way for him, but that doesn't mean he's going to be successful.
They're all liberals. Where do you differentiate? They're all liberals, all three of them. Where do you differentiate to beat Michelle Wu?
Do we know Josh Kraft is liberal? I don't know.
It all happened late in the year, but chaos returned to the Boston City Council. District 7 Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson was indicted on federal corruption charges. She has rejected calls to resign. Is her fate, Marianne, as a public official, best left to the voters?
Well, it's going to be decided by a court of law and the court of public opinion. The only question is which one happens first. Does she have a trial first, or is the election come up in September 1st? We don't know that, but she is definitely using, like so many people now, the Trump playbook: delay, deny, delay, deny, delay, deny.
She has steadfastly refused to resign.
Yeah, and I'm sure she's trying to hang on to the job and the income. Most likely it gets settled in the primary, just like with Arroyo, Kendra Lara, counselors who had legal problems in office. Eventually the voters took care of business.
All right, slow zones on the MBTA subway lines are over for the first time in more than 2 decades. MBTA General Manager Phil Eng has made some remarkable progress, but there have been setbacks as well. A Green Line derailment caused by operator error, a scandal at a Dorchester maintenance facility. Employees were fired for working on their own vehicles on company time. The budget gap also remains massive. Will money put the brakes on the T moving forward, Rob?
Well, money's a big issue. It's been an issue at the T for a long time. But now, does the T leadership spend the money on, free rides and personnel instead of on improvements to the infrastructure? That is really what's needed to get the system running on time. Hopefully they make the right decision.
Marianne?
They'll find the money to continue to improve the T, because if you do that, the cost-benefit analysis is clear. Getting kids onto the T instead of Boston Public School buses, getting people to work on time. A reliable T is an economic benefit, and we just might get it in our lifetime.
Our lifetime?
Our
okay,
collective
I'm
lifetime.
just. Okay.
Hold on, when's the snow?
I know,
When's
right?
the first snowstorm?
We have to wait and see, right.
Up next, making progress. John Deaton didn't have much luck in his Senate race against Elizabeth Warren, but Bay State Republicans are feeling better about where they stand. We'll talk about that as our year in review continues on OTO.